name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Mianjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
In the midst of that, Chance is still in the NICU. He's still at the same hospital that my wife had just passed away in. And I was really scared about going back to that place. I didn't want to, honestly. But the nurses called me just to give me a daily update. And they said, we can start doing skin to skin as soon as tomorrow. And it just gave me this like jolt of excitement, but also shock, because I was like, he's so young. I didn't think I'd be able to do skin to skin yet. And so I go, and this was 2 days after Cam's passing. And I got to hold my boy for the first time. And every cliche about being a parent is just so powerful that you can't like tiptoe around it, because I felt that flood of love, and I felt that joy of just getting to hold my son. And he was just a small 1 pound preemie baby. He was very small. And it just, I was I was overjoyed, but I was also terrified, because he's hooked up to all this stuff, and I've got him on my chest, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm holding him in the right way and that he can still breathe. And every day that I could hold him, I did. And it was beautiful to see that he could recognize my voice too, because there were moments where I would come to that room and I would stick my pinky finger in to his intubation, and he would grab on, and I would say, "It's your dad," and he would squeeze tighter. And it was Saturday, a day before Camry's funeral. I got a call at 6 a.m. in the morning, which was not normal for when the nurses would call me. And they said, something's wrong with Chance. We don't know exactly what yet, but we're waiting to get results back. You should get here now. So I get out of bed, driving 80, 90 miles an hour to get to the hospital as soon as I can. And I get to the floor where he is, and they're prepping him for surgery. And a doctor takes me into a room and outlines what's going on. They tell me that they've identified that there's air in his stomach and that there is a colon perforation, and that based on what it is, once they get in there, that they might need to do XYZ procedures. And as I am signing the consent forms for this to happen, one of the nurses comes into the room, and she says, he's coding. And so we run over to his room, and they are doing CPR on him. And all of these doctors are trying to talk to me and talk me through things. And all I want to do is see him and touch him. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, "Can I see him?" And they say, "Yes." And so I go up to him and I say, "Hey, buddy, it's your dad." And I just hold his hand for a second. And they're doing CPR on him as this is going on. And the doctor is telling me that with a premature baby, once you get to the point of needing to do CPR, it's not usually good. And so they were trying, and his heart rate got down to 20. And usually a baby's at that age should be about 160. And the doctors kept telling me it's not looking good. And I saw my boy there suffering. And I said, "Stop, just stop." And they stopped. And they took all of his tubes off of him. And I got to hold him after he had passed for the first time without tubes. And that was the first time that I got to actually see his eyes. And he had Camry's eyes. And I wept with him in my arms. But I was just so frustrated that I didn't even want to be there anymore. I was truly pissed off. And so I let him go back into his bed, and I talked with the doctors and nurses, and I said, "What do you need from me?" I answered those things, and I marched out of there. And as I'm going down the unit, people are asking me, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Blah, blah, blah. I don't even turn around to look at them. I'm just slam the elevator button, get downstairs, and one of my friends was waiting there for me, and I was furious. I was just so angry that my son was gone. It was not fair. And there was so much love and hope that was poured into that boy, not just from me, but from family, from the medical team. And I just wanted to get out of there. And I did. And I continued to be angry. But I got to a point where that anger, to the best of my ability, I've tried to channel into love, because I know that that anger is coming from love. And what I think about is that I had planned out this whole life where it was going to be Chance and I. And I was worried, what is Chance's life going to be like without a mom? And there's this weird, beautiful irony that I got Chance for 9 days, but now mom gets him for even longer. And it's just a weird, funny universe thing where it's like the script was completely flipped on me as far as what my plans were and what I thought it was going to look like. And it really has been a very strong testament to us not being guaranteed any days. He was only given 9 days on this earth. And in that time, I wanted him to feel nothing but love, and I was able to give him that. And even though it was a very, very short time and I would have wanted more time, I still have gratitude that I had any time at all, because we're not guaranteed any. And I look back and have gratitude that they got to meet Earthside first. And, who would have thought that it was just going to be me that they're waiting on now? And the life that I want to live now is filled with so much love from them. I feel my heart expanding because of them. And I don't want to live a life with less love because they're gone. And I know that they wouldn't want that for me either. And so as I move forward, I'm just focused on love, plain and simple. And that is what, in my opinion, life really is about. If you don't have love, then you don't have anything. And love is just so powerful that it can overtake all of the other things that I'm experiencing right now. The pain, the ache, the anger, the loneliness, the anxiety, the frustration. Love wins. It does. And I'm going to continue to let love win. Because what's the point if I don't? Yeah, that's my story, or at least part of it. Happy to answer any other questions you might have or comments in general.
I'll start with a comment. And if you're happy to, Colin, I'm going to break this up into a couple of episodes, because I think that story on its own deserves its space, especially, so soon after, as a father myself was, fighting back tears. Just It's just such a powerful story, and I don't know where to start really in terms of what you went through, the decisions you had to make, and that constantly changing too. It's just
Yeah.
an amazing story. But then how you've been able to bring love out of that as well, and have that as what you're going to do going forward is amazing. It's a testament to you. It's a testament to Camry, your relationship with her, and then
Yeah.
Chance as well for the short period that he was Earthside. Thank you for telling that story, your story, and I'm sure it'll help someone out there that is going through their grief process, whether it be similar to yours or a completely different situation. So thank you very much for sharing that. That was amazing.
Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
In terms of questions, if describing Camry prior to her challenges, her health challenges, and prior to what just has happened to take her away, how would you describe her? You briefly mentioned there that she was quick to action. She was a fiery person. Yeah, how would you describe her in general?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
Yeah, fiery is the best word that I can think of. And I say that, I don't say that lightly, because she was someone who would be the first to speak up in pretty much whatever room she was in. And she went to law school and got her degree, and so she was in law school questioning professors. She was in yoga questioning the yoga teachers. And every space that I was part of with her, she went out of her way to address injustices that she saw. And it could be the smallest things, it could be big things, but she wasn't afraid to argue with a 250 pounds, 6'5" guy who was doing something disrespectful. You know, she was fearless. She really was. And she really was someone who had that fire in her, that passion, in a very authentic way. She also had a very tender love in her as well. And she had the ability to make me feel more safe and secure than any woman has in my life. She made wherever we were a safe place to be. And she was so generous with others, whether it be through acts of service or gift giving. She was always finding ways to make other people feel special. And she was so good at that. And she was also really good at just eventizing things in general. And that is one of those stories that I've shared on Instagram, was her and I, our boyfriend girlfriend anniversary, we had this tradition that she had started where we would have a piece of cake and we would say something to each other that we were grateful for in the other person, and then we blow out the candle and eat the cake. And so she started that tradition and we carried it as long as we could, and it's something that I want to continue to do, because even though she's gone, that doesn't mean the gratitude for her stops. And yeah, she was just so smart. She was so smart, incredibly smart. I mean, we would have arguments and it was hard to be mad at her because 99% of the time she was actually right. When I let my ego go away and I listened to what she had to say and laid it out, it's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're actually right. So it felt like I had been spending time with a human being that was just operating on a higher frequency than me. And that was such a gift to be around, because she poured so much of that into me. And that was something that I had been seeking, was someone who could challenge me to grow. And she did that. She challenged me a lot. And I am a changed man because of her, not only from the relationship that we built together, but because of the lasting effect that she has on me. And it sounds crazy to say, but when we were in that hospital that 2 weeks before she had passed, there were moments where I could almost feel her strength and her love transferring into me as she got weaker. Where as she started to go, I started to feel even more bold and confident and ready to tackle the world because of Camry's spirit flowing through me. And it's just a testament to the strength that she embodied everywhere that she went. And I've also I've been telling people that if they think that I'm strong, they should have met my wife because she she made me look like I was, playing little leagues, compared to, how she handled things and what she was going through, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, everything. Um, yeah, she
That,
is
that's
she is a
strength.
true warrior.
That lesson of strength and resilience and everything about her that you're embodying now, are there that along with other lessons that you've learned from her throughout the relationship?
Sorry, say that question again.
Is that a lesson, or are there other lessons, whether it be small and practical, or the bigger picture lessons that you've learned from Camry?
Hmm.
Maybe how to win an argument going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something in general is learning to stand up for myself and stand up for others. She was so good at that. She Whenever anybody would do anything to her sideways, she made it known that it was an issue, and she advocated for herself in every avenue, whether it be in the medical areas or in her work life or anywhere. She was advocating for herself, and she was advocating for other people. If there were people that seemed like they were not included in groups or were on the outskirts of a social gathering, she did everything in her power to get to know that person and pull them in because she was that person a lot in different areas. She was a, a black woman growing up in a predominantly white country area. And so she knew what it felt like to be the odd one out, and she never wanted anyone to feel like that. And so she poured that into so many people, and that is something that I want to continue to embody is to look out for my fellow human and to stand up for myself and to maintain the boundaries that I need to in order to keep my own inner peace when I go through those circumstances that can oftentimes be challenging as far as boundaries.
Is there a quote or saying or phrase that she would always say that you'll remember her by?
um, so she liked to cuss a lot. And something that she would say, and she had it on a mug, was "Let that shit go." So that was something that she would say pretty often. Um, hmm. I think the other one that comes to mind is just what she had told me in some of her final words was to just breathe. That to me is something very powerful that continues to guide me when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I don't know what to do, when I'm going through just about anything. I hear her voice in my head just telling me to breathe. And I think that is something that we could all use a little bit more of.
Absolutely. That was so, I'd have to say, thinking back to that when you were in that moment, and it felt like you took me there, and I'm sure any listeners to that moment, those words, and I found myself doing it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can completely appreciate that, those words, and you're right. I think it's something that people in general need to do more, whether it be a grief situation, a moment of frustration, or just not feeling right about the world. I think it's an amazing, powerful, so simple, I guess, but something that can help in any aspect of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you guys meet? How did you meet?
We met through a mutual friend. So he had a birthday party, and I saw her across the room. And in my head, I thought, she's trouble. And circumstantially, we just ended up not talking that night. And she was someone who kind of stayed in the back of my head, and we ended up following each other on Instagram. We had a little bit of banter going there. That kind of fizzled out a little bit, and there's a lot of debate on who was the last to to leave the other unread in that conversation. But
I'm
I
assuming
ended
she
up
won
seeing,
won that argument.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then we ended up. I saw her on Hinge, and I was like, okay, I know this gal a little bit, and so we started chatting there, and we went on our first date March 21st of 2022, and we just got some drinks, and we both loved whiskey, and so we had some whiskey, and we ended up just singing some Jasmine Sullivan down the sidewalk of downtown Indianapolis in the middle of the night. And um, yeah, it was just the beginning of us experiencing a lot of fun and free spirit together. And yeah, from there we um, just continued to get to know each other and spend time together. And um, yeah, the first time that we said "I love you" was at the same time, because we both kind of knew at that point, and we were in Chicago, and that night I had actually that was the night that I told her that I think she would make a great mom, which she was not expecting me to say that at all. Um, but it moved her, and we were looking at each other, and I looked at her and I was like, I know what you want to say. and and I was like, and then she was like, you say it first. And I was like, let's say it at the same time. And then we did a whole countdown and we said it at the same time. Um, and yeah, it was um, we had, gosh, how long was it? We had almost 2 years. No, over 2 years together of, when we first met before her cancer diagnosis. So the majority of our relationship, we didn't know about the cancer. It was just this past year and a half or so. And that in and of itself is crazy to think about, that this whole journey has been, just over 3 years.
Mm.
It's not that long, but I also feel like I lived such a lifetime with her, and we tried to fit so much life into that 3 years that we had together.
It certainly feels like a lifetime. The way that you speak about her and your story. So I think that was very, um, a lifetime of love was really concentrated, feels as though it was concentrated into that 3 years. It certainly comes across that way. In the 2 years before her diagnosis, do you have a favorite story and memory of her?
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by my legacy message. How do you want to be remembered? My legacy message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My legacy message: be remembered.
Yeah, I think my favorite memory was when her and I did a road trip in a live-in van. So we flew in to Los Angeles, rented a live-in van, and then drove up the coast to Portland in the span of 7 days. So that drive, we probably drove anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day for that week. And we would stop in different places every day and camp out there. And it was so fun, but also frustrating because you are you are stuck in this tiny space with a person for a week. And we were, you know, by the hip for the entire week. And so, tensions were definitely high at points. But it's one of those things where both her and I could look back and laugh at it, and just how intense the road trip was at times, but all the other times where it was just insanely fun and beautiful. I mean, we got to see so much of just beautiful parts of the country and have so many weird, wacky stories from that trip in general, that it was just something that her and I always held very close to our hearts as one of our favorite memories.
Yeah, I think anyone that has done a trip like that, where you are stuck, or virtually stuck together, yeah, can certainly appreciate the tensions and quarrels, and there's just no getting away from that person. Uh,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I've done that myself with my wife and two little kids, and it's something that you're right. I think you look back on and you think that in the moment, so frustrating, and there's all these
Yeah.
emotions and anger and all the rest of it. But you look back now and you can laugh. So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful memory.
It tests your limits for sure.
Absolutely. Test the limits, test your relationship, test your ability to handle arguments and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the love story and then blossoming into engagement and wedding, what was that like? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we got the cancer diagnosis in May of 2024, and Camry was very quick to want to get married. And understandably, I pushed back on it because I felt very confident that she was able to beat this cancer. And so I told her, let's put all of our energy and time into curing you. And once that's done, we will do everything, because I wanted to. I was just so scared of overwhelming her and putting too many things on her plate when there were so many things that she was already having to address. And then December of 2024 hit, and that was when we got the news that it had metastasized to the liver, meaning that it was officially stage 4 at that point. And so at that point, that is when it put a fire in me to ensure that we could do everything that we wanted to do in the time that we had. And so I ordered a ring, and I booked us a trip to Mexico, to a place that we had dreamed of going together. And we enjoyed ourselves in paradise, and we got engaged there. And then around a month and a couple days later, we got married, and we just ended up going to the courthouse. We did it super small, and it was amazing. It was such a beautiful day, and it wasn't filled with any stress, which was awesome, because it was just about us and what we wanted to do and in our love. And we had this tradition where we would go to a certain restaurant, and we would always go to the bar and sit at the very end on these high top stools. And they have the best bao buns in the city. So we showed up in our wedding attire and just ate ourselves some bao buns and some other food and just enjoyed ourselves and didn't worry about anybody else. And between the engagement and the wedding, that was when we found out that we were pregnant. And so in the midst of all of that, we were also starting to think about a pregnancy and what that would look like and the circumstances that we would be in, and kind of went through some of those details already. But yeah, everything happened extremely fast. This this whole year's been a whirlwind, man. Because yeah, December was stage 4, February was engagement, March was the wedding, and then May we bought a house, and simultaneously in May she had a surgery, and then end of June was when she was hospitalized again, and then the start of July was the birth of our son and her death. So it is like
The definition of whirlwind. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a year, and I remember New Year's Day just thinking to myself, I don't know what's going to happen this year, but it's going to be a year. It is going to be a year, and it has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the cake tradition, which I love, and I've seen snippets of that. That's a way that you mentioned you'll continue to preserve her legacy. Are there other ways that you plan to continue to remember Cam?
Yeah. So part of that is through my sharing of our story together. So whether that be through avenues like this or through my Instagram or for things that are just for myself, whether it be journaling or whatever it may be. And I also eventually want to plant a willow tree in the yard of our new house and put some of her ashes and Chance's ashes with that tree. And she was such an adventure girl, and I want to spread her ashes wherever I go to just give her that experience of going to some of those places with me. And I think part of her legacy lives on too through friends and family. And I very intentionally gave some of her friends some of her clothing just as a way to honor her and think of her and for her stuff to live on, because I know that she would want that more than me getting, some chump change off of it. So yeah, those are at least the ways that I'm thinking of right now, and I'm sure that that'll continue to change over time. But yeah, and that's something I'd love to hear how you do that. And I know part of that is this podcast, but I'm curious if you have any other things like you do for your dad.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Unexpected, but yeah, certainly. I think the big thing there's certainly big. I feel, and I've probably, I think, garnered this from other people that have been on the podcast. There's big things that people do, and then there's the little things, every day or every quarter or every month, or it might be on his birthday or whatever it might be, or when he passed away in October. We have our family group chat. So in terms of the big things, yeah, absolutely. This podcast is completely in honor of him and speaking to people that have lost loved ones, and yeah, this is just a nod to Dad to say, you started this, you created this as an honor and in memory of you. So that's a nice reminder, I think, for me, and I know that Luke and our mum, she listens to absolutely every single episode. So I think that's to us is a little piece of, we're thinking about you and we're thinking about him as
Yeah.
well. So that's the big thing. I think the little things.
Yeah.
I mentioned the group podcast. Sorry, the group WhatsApp group that we have, the family one. Whenever it's his birthday, two of his favorite things were sarsaparilla. So one of us or nearly all of us would normally, take a photo, send it to the group, and just say happy birthday, Dad. And he had a particular
Mm.
biscuit or cookie that he liked. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're an Australian thing. So they're called an iced Vovo. So basically, they're a thin shortbread biscuit, and then they have like a layer of jam, and then like a marshmallow, and then coconut sprinkles on top. And he loved them. So we'd send a photo of those
Sounds
as
good.
well to say, happy birthday, Dad, and thinking of you. And same with Father's Day, and all those type of little things that we have. They're the things that we honor him by and keep his memory alive. And then for me, when I, visit the family home, I always talk about him to my little ones. They're only 3 and
Mm.
5, but we'll always, point him out and say, there's Grandpa Bob, and
Well,
talk about him. So, yeah, if that answers your questions there, from the big to the little things, I think it's
yeah.
those, just keeping things constant and,
Yeah.
just regular things that you would have done, with them as well.
Yeah. I think that's a great, beautiful way to honor him. That's so specific to him,
Yeah,
which is really
thank you
cool.
for asking that unexpected. What
Yeah.
about for Chance, Colin? Are the things that you are going to do going forward? I know it's a tough one, being
Yeah.
you only had 9 days, but
Yeah. I think part of what I think of is I think it's more of a thematic thing, which is holding on to the love that he gave me.
mm,
And I know I kind of mentioned that before, but what I more specifically mean by that is the the paternal love that I felt and feel for him. That to me is one of the biggest ways that I can honor him. And it's been something that I already feel myself embodying more of. And I'll give you an example. I was rock climbing last week, and there were all these young kiddos, and some of the kiddos had climbed to the very top of one of the sections there, and they were too scared to go back down. And so before, I don't know if I would have really cared, honestly. But in that moment, I was just thinking of like Chance, and I was thinking of I would want to help him. And so with these kiddos, I just encourage them. I'm like, all right, you just got to do it one step at a time. And they watched me do it. And then after I did it, they climbed back down. And it just warmed my heart, but also saddened my heart at the same time. But I find myself just having more of that paternal instinct in general. And I think a lot of that is just because of Chance.
yeah, that totally makes sense. I think as you mentioned before, he had a short time Earthside, but by you, I think having, continuing on with those paternal instincts, and even that's a beautiful story in its own, a way of honoring him, I guess, in a way. So that's really beautiful. Lessons or advice, I should probably say advice that you would give to someone going through. I find it really hard to imagine, someone going through something that very similar to what you've been through. I'm sure there are people like that, but
Yeah.
maybe in general, someone that's going through, they're in the midst of their grief journey, as you are. What advice would you give to someone going through that at the moment?
Something that I've continued to tell myself is to frame everything with love. Every emotion, every heartache, every sob session, just frame it with love. and remind yourself that what you're feeling is because of love. And just a couple days ago, I was sobbing in my bathroom and just really missing Camry and really missing how she was my person and she was a person I could go to because it was a circumstance where I was just frustrated and I wanted someone to vent to, and that would always be Camry. And so I was sobbing because she just didn't she's not able to have my back in the way that she was before. And as I'm looking at myself crying, I just remind myself, you are crying because you love her. And I just gave myself a hug and I just kept crying. And I just told myself it's okay to cry. And that is, I think, another lesson that I'd kind of tie on to that, which is just not judging yourself because there's no right way to grieve, unless, of course, it's extremely destructive. But I mean, there's no law for how you are supposed to grieve. And something that I have gratitude for is that I'm letting myself do what I need to do and not judging it. And yeah, there are moments of guilt and shame and asking myself, why am I already happy? You know, even just a small moment, why am I already happy? And I've pushed away from that and reminded myself that they would both want me to be happy and to love and to have joy, and they wouldn't want me in misery down here. So just let yourself be happy. You deserve it. And yeah, there's just not a playbook for this. So that's why I say you just got to frame it with love. It gives a gentleness to everything that you're experiencing.
It does, and it's really, really good advice. I think thinking on it, I think Chance and Camry would both want you to have moments of happiness, and
Mhm.
would really be happy that you're taking things from a perspective of love. I know that you had those conversations as Camry's health declined. So you're right. There's no playbook. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You just have to. Yeah, this is just pulling from different conversations that I've had about grief. You just have to live it and feel what you feel, and when you feel
Mhm.
it, just let it happen. And whether that's sadness, anger, frustration, happiness, whatever you feel, just feel it, man. Like it's been shut
Yeah,
such a short period of time, and you'll continue to feel it, and you'll have roller coasters and
absolutely.
different waves. So just let it wash over you, and yeah, know that it's in your words, know that it's come from a place of love. So that's amazing advice. Thank you for sharing that. Last question for you, Colin, for the main part of the podcast. Traditionally, our most difficult one, but look, you've gone through some difficult times, so I'm sure you'll be completely fine with this. If both Chance and Camry were in front of you today, what would you say to them?
I would say let's keep having fun. That was something that Camry and I tried to embody throughout our entire journey together. And so that's that's all I would want, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for answering that
Yeah.
question. Thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing that whole story, for with Camry and Chance, and the journey that you had to go through, and before them passing, and then even remembering them, sharing stories and memories of Camry and the short time that you had with the chance. Really appreciate it. I'm sure you definitely would have helped someone out there going through grief, and we wish you all the best. As I said before, you've only been a month into it, but you're showing amazing strength, and being able to come onto the podcast is a testament to you and Camry and Chance as well, and the love they've shared with you. So thank you very much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you, Mark. It's truly an honor to be here, and just sharing my story in general is a catharsis for me in and of itself. So I appreciate you just creating this space where people like me can share their stories.
Thanks, Colin. Well, that was Collin from Indianapolis in Indiana. That was just an amazing chat. As you will see, listeners, I've split this up into two episodes. I think just to, I guess, honor the story and what Collin had been through, that entire journey with the diagnosis and hospitalization, and then to Camry passing, and then Chance. It was just, I just wanted to, and Collin told it so wonderfully from a perspective of rawness and love. I really wanted to split that up. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this two-part episode. Well, enjoyed is probably the wrong word. Appreciated, and the story that Collin came on and sharing, it was just amazing. He's just an amazing person. Sounded like Camry was an amazing person, and just she would have wanted all the love in the world for Collin, and I really appreciate him giving up his time and coming on and sharing that story. And I said to him in the Patreon, I just wish him all the best, and he's doing such an amazing job 1 month on. I just can't believe that we were so grateful that he came on and had that conversation with me. I know for sure that both Luke and Ryan will be disappointed they missed this chat due to their cooking class. True or not, their cooking class that they were attending together, they'll be really disappointed. And we 1 month on is amazing. I'm not sure that we've had anyone come on so soon after a loved one has passed. Not that you want to have that mantle, but Collin, you're doing such an amazing job, and please continue on telling your story, because I know that it'll help someone out there. I mentioned the Patreon briefly there, so that was a really good short chat that I had with Collin. I wanted to be respectful of his time. He'd already given up so much of his time, but we spoke about how, if he would have done anything differently throughout, and we also spoke about briefly his time in Sydney. He spent a bit of time over here. So yeah, get involved with Patreon. We are on Patreon, Patreon/Remembering Them podcast. A way to support the podcast. It's $6 a month US, $9 a month Australian, where you'll have exclusive access to those chats with our guests, Collin, and all of our previous guests as well. Our chat to professional guests as well. Just some bit lighter, generally more relaxed conversation that we have with our guests. Reminder to give the podcast a rating and review on your preferred podcast platform. Please share this story, 5 stars ideally, of course. This conversation with Collin was worth more than 5 stars if you could give it that. But please share this episode with Collin, if just someone that you think might need to hear his story, if they're going through something similar or their own grief journey. And in that vein, any of the previous guests, please share those episodes that you think might be of use to someone. Minded to follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We're all on all of those, and we'd love for you to share those posts as well. We'll share obviously two different posts for Collin's episodes. Remember that the My Legacy message is there as well for people, mylegacymessage.com.au, to leave video messages to your loved ones, often a surprise after you've passed. And we also have the partnership with BetterHelp. So BetterHelp patreon.com/remembering them, which will give you 10% off your first month if you need to speak to a therapist. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for Collin. So grateful and honoured and appreciative of you giving up your time and speaking about Camry and your son Chance. Just an amazing story, and so grateful. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me for this double episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to the next conversation. Love you. Bye.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.